Hi, Morgan. Good evening from California. I'm so excited to meet you. My name is
Excited to meet you.
Excellence. Yeah, I'm Excellence Joshua, and I'm one of the global community ambassadors here at iHouse. I came into iHouse in August last year. That's during the fall, and I've been here for a couple of months. And it's quite exciting to connect with the residents and the alumni and just share the beauty that is iHouse. And so this month we're celebrating the Black History Month alongside everyone in the United States and Canada. And we thought it would be nice to feature people that have Black history that are residents as well as alumni here in iHouse. And so I asked where are the alumni, but I know the alumni that have Black history. I want to meet them. And you were one of those that were highlighted to me. And so when I checked, they didn't just highlight you, they sent me the videos you work. I'm like, you literally drove two hands and it is so good. And you were so fast. I'm like, this is incredible. I watched with someone and she's like, is that an animated character doing that? Or is that human? And we're like, no, that's human. And I think that was phenomenal. And so I'm gonna start there. Can you just tell us a bit about yourself and where you're from and how did you actually the core is how did you like with two hands? Do you actually also write with two hands? Like I want to hear that
Yeah.
story.
I do actually write with two hands as well.
Wow.
I am from Texas, and I spent a lot of time not having too much access to the internet. And without cable television or the internet, you find creative ways to do stuff with your time. And when I was around
Um,
16, I remember that I had seen a documentary about Leonardo da Vinci that said that he would draw with
okay.
both hands at the same time. And I was like,
Wow.
damn, I want to learn how to do that. And so I
Wow.
practiced. I was born right-handed, but over the
Wow.
years, over about 6 years, I taught myself how to also be left-handed for writing, for drawing, for brushing my teeth, for stirring a pot, for everything.
That is incredible. For 6 years from when you were 16, like you weren't even a child, like you were quite formed, like you taught yourself how to do all of that. Was it
Yeah, and so
hard?
that's where it was absolutely hard. Initially, I would get headaches from it because your brain, it would be like, my brain would be like, hey, why do you have to teach us how to write again, how to make letters again? We know how to do this an easier way. And so I would get headaches for about the first 6 years. And then after that, the headaches were gone.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Whoa, that's so cool. So what's your Black history story? How are you Black? What's the story there?
So, what I find, so my upbringing was a bit unique in that I didn't go to public school. When I was growing up, I was mostly raised by my father, who's a Black American. My mother is from Mexico, and I was homeschooled. And so when I would when I would go to a bank and see these signs for Black History Month, or suddenly notice walking through stores that they have a lot of Black figures represented, I'd feel like, well, I mean, it's nice that they have a token there. It's nice that they're like acknowledging the Black people that shop here, that pay money here. But I didn't really feel that it represented me. I didn't really feel that what they were doing was really for my benefit so much as to say, yes, check mark done. We announced that Black people exist. Um,
Mm,
Today, though, quite a few years after studying at Cal, after graduating, after moving abroad, I now understand that while some companies, most actually a lot of companies, use it as a token, it's also a opportunity, a springboard to launch conversations about race in America and about parts of our history that we erase or that we intentionally forget about. So I see it now as a big conversation starter.
oh, wow. That's pretty interesting. And so yes, it's a conversation starter, but what kind of conversation do you think we should be having when we're talking about Black history?
So when I was living in Malaysia, I remember meeting a person who considered himself an expert in all things America. But when he would ask me about like what's going on with Black people there, like why are so many having a criminal history? Why are why are universities, having so few Black students? He'd oftentimes ask, yeah, I mean, slavery was 150 years ago. Slavery was so long ago. How could that have anything to do with what people are doing today? And that means that in terms of education, most people who are not well-versed in American Black history think, okay, slavery ended. That's it. Everybody was happy. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I had a dream. And then from that day forward, racism didn't exist. And what they don't realize is that when you take power away from people, they want it back. And so we had things like sharecropping, things like convict leasing, things like redlining. And even today, a lot of those same policies, those same unequal policies persist. And I think it's very important that when we have those conversations about race in America, we don't just talk about where we are, but we trace that lineage, we trace that history so people can see how we got here.
Interesting. That's so good. So in all your years of being an artist and drawing, with all your experience, is there any way you try to communicate Black history through it, or are there ways you try to join the conversation or create more awareness around those things? Is this something you've worked on?
So I think that it's a little bit of an interesting thing for me, because when I was in the US, I was spending most of my time being homeschooled, where I didn't experience a lot of racism from other people because I didn't really interact that much with people outside of my social network there. And so for me to be the voice of, this is what Black people experience, I can't really say that from firsthand. On the other hand, I see it as my heritage, as my cultural duty to educate people, because when I was both in the US and now abroad, people will oftentimes label me as something other than Black. They will see, they'll see me and they'll say, not, where are you from, but which part of India are you from?
Wow.
There was a donor at iHouse, actually, at a meet and greet, who said, yeah, which part of India are you from? Oh, you're from Texas. Which part of India are your parents from? Oh, one is Black American, one is Mexican. But what about your grandparents? Your grandparents are from India, and if they're smart, they're from Southern India. And so I've gotten people saying, because I'm biracial, I've gotten people saying that I'm from Yemen, that I'm from Eritrea, that I'm from all sorts of places. One gentleman from Iraq said, yes, we have this particular place in the mountains where the people look exactly like you do.
Wow.
So I think it's important then to say, well, representation is important. Even if I can't say that I've experienced the same things that many Black Americans have experienced, I can at least say, your imagination of Black people is like that. Let's make this box bigger. I'm also Black.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. So talking about iHouse, the donor you met, now you mentioned being in the US, then Germany, then Malaysia, and it just tells me that you're well traveled. And you also mentioned that you were homeschooled, right? How did it feel coming into the International House? What was your experience like? How did you find out about the International House? And then what was your experience like coming in here with the diversity and everyone and the whole activities and everything going on? How was it for you?
I loved it. And the way that I found out about iHouse, So growing up, my dad would tell stories about his time in university. He had studied at UC Berkeley. He had studied at the law school
Oh,
there, back when it was called
amazing.
Fort Hall. Since then, it's
Okay.
been renamed to Berkeley Law because Fort
Yeah.
turns out had some history. Um,
Yeah.
so he would tell about his time studying at Berkeley Law, and also about his time staying at the I House.
Wow, I see. So your
And so
dad is
after,
also an alumni.
yeah, after all those years, when I got accepted to Berkeley, he said, "Do me a favor, check and see what it's like to apply to the I House." And I did, and I got in, and I loved it so, so much. Sure, I had not been exposed to that many international cultures before, especially not in such a concentrated place. But my dad had liked to show us, go to the library and show us movies from Russia, movies from China, movies from Japan, from Germany, from all over the world. And then it got this hunger for international cultures, for different peoples, and seeing how the world was. And suddenly they were right at my doorstep. They were my neighbors. My first roommate was from Singapore. The next one was from France, Norway, Sweden. It was really awesome to finally see that.
So cool. And so since you left the I House, what have you been up to, and how has your experience in the I House shaped what you're currently doing? Did it have any influence at all?
It hasn't had a massive influence on my life. So immediately after graduating with a mathematics degree from UC Berkeley, I didn't yet have a job. And so my dad suggested, well, you probably won't have many opportunities to travel once you get tied down to a 9 to 5. So why not go and see a little bit of the world? And I thought, I have friends that I want to see again in Norway, in Denmark, in Germany. Let me go. So I'd saved up some money from drawing portraits, and I visited friends in each city, had a couch to sleep on or a spare room to sleep in. And on my last day on that visit, I was in Germany, I was in Munich, and I was taking a train ride. And I drew a little 3-year-old girl who was moving and squirming, and she couldn't sit still. And her dad was so curious. He was like, "Oh, what are you doing in Germany? Are you a student? Oh, you just graduated. What did you study? Oh, mathematics. Where did you study? Oh, UC Berkeley. Do you know anything about data science?"
Wow.
And then 3 months later, I was flown back out to Munich to sign my contract because I got a job.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is so good. That is so good. Wow. Wow, talk about connections. That's so good. So talking about portraits, do you still draw portraits while you work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm now at portrait 15,442.
Wow, that's so that's so many. So what inspires you when you're drawing? What do you see, or what? How do you do it? What drives you to, I don't know, I just want to try to see the world from your eyes. Like, what's he thinking when he's doing all of this?
Absolutely. So when I'm drawing portraits, what I'm most interested in is the interaction. So many days when I'm going on my morning commute via the subway system here, people are quiet, people are lost in their phones, they're trying to catch up on some Z's. But when I hand that portrait over, they're usually surprised and they're usually happy. And even if it's just a smile, I love that. When I was at iHouse, actually, I had drawn maybe like 200 people before coming to iHouse. And then I came to iHouse and I met some amazing, brilliant people there. And one of them I only learned was super amazing at the tail end of the year. And so I was like, "You're going back home. I'm probably never going to meet you again. I missed this entire year to interact with you. Next time it's not going to happen again." And so the next semester, all new students came and I hatched a plan. I wanted to meet every single one of them.
Wow.
And so I would come to every door, in every hallway, on every floor of the iHouse, and I would knock on their door and I'd say, would you like a picture, a portrait of yourself here on this whiteboard? And they'd say, sure. And then I'd be able to talk to them for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes. Sometimes we talk for an hour.
Wow.
And I get to know about where they were from, what they were studying, what life was like over where they were.
Wow, that is so good. Wow, so brilliant. So coming to that, that's quite inspirational. What advice will you give to current residents on how to maximize the time, the opportunity, and the resources they have right now being iHouse residents?
I'd say that the meals there at the iHouse are amazing. So at Berkeley overall, the food at iHouse is probably the best, if it's still as I remember it. But the thing that I would say is don't stop with a few friends. It totally makes sense to have some good, strong friends, but keep on sitting at new tables, keep on interacting with new people, because yeah, it's such a treasure, the people that are at iHouse. And so only when you pop your head in and say hello, you see that, there's some people hanging out at this particular room, pop your head in, say hello, find out what's going on. I think that that's the most wonderful thing of the iHouse is the people there.
Wow, you're right. The people and the conversations we have, that's so true. Wow, this has been so good, Morgan. Do you have any final words for those listening to this about iHouse or anything at all you want to share?
No, I can just say thank you very much, Excellence, for this opportunity to talk again about this wonderful chapter in my life. And I hope that a lot more people get to experience it. It was a great time there at the iHouse.
It always is. Thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you for doing this with us again. We're very grateful. Thank you.